So we're going to be doing PA assessments of the thoracic spine as well as the ribs. Real quick, just to remind yourselves, when we say that you're going to be using the pisiform to do any kind of central PA testing, we mean that area just distal to the pisiform, which is a little bit of a nice soft space. So you would use your pisiform to just come up and abut the side of that spinous process. So from here, we're going to move into actually doing the central PA. With the central PA, I'm just going to identify the spinous process. Really nice and easy as far as the thoracic spine is concerned. I like to do this sandwich technique where I identify an inner space and then another inner space and then sandwich that spinous process in between. And then once I have that, I can put that pisiform area right there. And then from there, I'm going to exert my pressure. Now, big things on this is I want to be able to lock out my elbows, and then the grip that I use just allows me to push through this hand, not the bottom hand, which can stay relaxed to actually feel the motion. And I'm not spending a lot of time here. It's just looking at resistance or not, resistance or not, resistance or not, and then comparing as I go. Now remember that this area and this area are going to move a lot more than the middle portion, which is going to be restricted by its connections to both the spine as well as the sternum in the front. So you would expect there to be a significant difference as you move into this area. So that's the UPA, or sorry, the central posterior to anterior pressure. Next is going to be the UPA. You've got two ways that you could do this one. First, before we move into that, you're going to identify your spinous process again, and then you're going to move lateral. And laterally, you're going to just move up and down, and you'll find two bumps. You've gone over the rule of threes. That may or may not be the case. It kind of shifts, and then you've got osseous anomalies. So just know that when you hit that spinous process, you go lateral and you find two bumps on the side that are roughly about an inch out. That's going to be your transverse process of either that same segment or possibly the segment or vertebra below it. So here I've identified my two transverse process. If I want to do a UPA, I can come across on that transverse process and just do my contact point on there. If I wanted to do both transverse processes at the same time, I would come in, put this part of my hand, so just distal to the pisiform, and right around here on my fifth finger, and just across the two. Letting this hand relax again and doing all my work from this part of my arm being locked out and then just leaning from my body. Now, a nice little additional technique that we'll do here is that if you identify two transverse processes at the same level and you drop one of your fingers down to the next one and you come across the top, that theoretically is going to create a little bit of a rotation. The rule of the lower finger is that you're rotating the segment as I press here and here towards this side or towards my lower finger. So just a nice way of getting rotation. The last thing is going to be your rib mobility assessment. With this one, same thing. I'll use my sandwiching of the spinous process to give me an approximate level. I'll go and identify my two bumps, which are going to be my transverse processes. Then from there, I'm going to walk out a little bit lateral to that, and I'll feel another bump, and that'll be the angle of the rib. This is going to be my purchase point for that area just distal to the pisiform. I'm going to come across that, and then I use the ridge of my fifth finger to come along that rib. That way I'm pressing only on that rib. And then I can stabilize at the vertebra by going back to that contralateral spinous process. So my stabilization would be like this, and then I would exert my pressure. Slight difference with this one, all of the previous ones have been going straight down. This one's going to be slightly lateral in order to gap that transverse costal joint. Last piece is just in reference to the table. If the person tends to sit more in the middle of the table and you have limited reach, you would want to move that person towards you and ignore the actual slot where their head should rest. So slide towards me. Good, and then just turn your head one way or another. And then remember that that is going to create a little bit of rotation up here, so you might lose some mobility. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it is something that you've got to accommodate for when you're doing your assessments.